I think what your viewers ought to be about, Razor, is that you at GB News continue to peddle fake news about this, which you, since you're a clown, obviously a faux think tank,
Oh
didn't bother
dear.
to read. It says very clearly.
Jonathan, there's no need to be insulting. Please don't insult my guests. We don't do that to you. Treat them with respect and stick to the data. Please answer the question.
Here we have this odious, angry professor again debating mass immigration and the fact foreign nationals are taking billions out of the country. It's not the first time I've watched him, and he always becomes angry when anyone expresses a view he doesn't like. This was him debating the same guy on another show.
We're actually seeing that the type of migrant entering the country, unfortunately, a large proportion of them aren't actually making an economic contribution, and they're not boosting the coffers in the way that perhaps we'd imagine that when you hear about immigration, you perceive it to be adding immense value to the economy. Every single individual coming is an absolute boon. But last year we saw that about 70% of those entered the country on a work visa were actually earning less than £38,000. Now that's an important statistic because that's the moment when someone breaks even and starts to actually be a contributor to the Treasury. And the fact that 70% are earning less than that suggests that perhaps it's more of a net cost than a net benefit.
So that is interesting, the type of migrant, Jonathan, that we're getting. So according to Migration Watch UK, I'm not sure where you got that figure of 70%, but nearly 60% of all foreign workers in the UK are employed in jobs that are not classed as highly skilled.
Important, first of all, we should try and get the numbers right. And unfortunately, we do get a lot of this, unfortunately, poorly researched nonsense.
Well, it's the Home Office's
well, no,
data.
no,
No,
it's
no,
not.
okay,
let's hear Jonathan.
Can I possibly explain for a bit here?
Here, he takes it one step further and starts name-calling, as well as accusing GB News of spreading fake news. This guy is an anti-British globalist, and he hates the idea of England being a nation. He wants mass immigration and the destruction of our national borders. He's part of the liberal establishment and wants to abolish Britain and turn us into a global state. That is why people like him want to reverse Brexit. Despite his disingenuous attempts to glorify mass immigration, we can all see it is out of control and destroying our country. His opponent calls out his nonsense, and that's when the name calling starts. He's got a cheek because all the left do is lie, lie after lie. First, they tried to say immigrants aren't entitled to social housing and benefits. We all know that is just pure nonsense. Not only do they get benefits and housing, they get them without proper checks. Hence, we have Bulgarian gangs committing the largest benefit fraud in UK history. We have a political class that actively decided it is our responsibility to house the world at the taxpayers' expense. Successive governments handed our country over to the world on a silver platter and said, here, it's yours, have it, come on in, what's ours is yours. And now the British people have had enough, and people like him can't stand that. Take a listen to this awful, pugnacious man.
We all know now it is an economic cost, despite what the open border fanatics and faux professors and whatever seem to claim.
Great many people will be looking at this figure today and saying that £7.5 billion in 1 year alone spent on universal credit for those born overseas is a complete slap in the face of hard-paying, hard-working British taxpayers, particularly when you consider it's 5 times the amount of money that the Labour Party took away from British pensioners over the winter fuel allowance.
I think what your viewers ought to be about, Razor, is that you at GB News continue to peddle fake news about this. So let me be quite clear. First of all, the headline you just had, foreign nationals benefit from. Remember, a very large proportion of these people are not foreign nationals. They're British, because they've been here long enough to acquire citizenship. So that's the first thing.
But they were born overseas. It says foreign nationals. They might become British citizens, but that's when they get the benefits. There's nothing fake news about that. That's a statement of truth. Stick to the facts.
Are you saying that somebody who come here has worked, has been here 15, 20 years, somebody who come here as long ago as Windrush, or indeed my parents who came here 50 years ago and has acquired citizenship and are now British, are you saying they are foreign nationals? Because that's what
I'm saying they were born overseas, which is what this data shows.
You're quite right. They were born overseas. Are you saying they're foreign nationals even though they have a British passport? Let's be clear. Are you saying that somebody who was born overseas, has been here 15, 20 years, worked all their life and has British citizenship Are you saying they're a foreign national, or are you going
Rob
to change
Bates Rob Bates wants to get on this to answer your question.
No,
Rob,
no,
answer.
Jonathan, you've misunderstood the data, I'm afraid, as not for the first time, unfortunately. These are foreign nationals. The £7.5 billion bill is foreign nationals, those without British citizenship. So what you're talking about is completely comparing pears and apples. You're talking absolute nonsense, unfortunately. No, it's foreign nationals. It's individuals in a household with a foreign national residing.
Wait. You're quite wrong, because I actually have the data release in front of me. It's from the Department of Work and Pensions, where I used to work and where I used to be responsible for this data.
No, it's foreign nationals. It's individuals that are foreign national. And
I know what the data... Let me be clear. Let me be absolutely clear here. I know where the data comes from. It comes from the HMR and DWP systems. I used to be responsible for this data. This data records nationality at the time of registration. And it very clearly says in the footnotes, which you, since you're a clown, obviously a faux think tank, didn't bother to read. It says very clearly...
Jonathan, there's no need to be insulting. Please don't insult my guests. We don't do that to you. Treat them with respect and stick to the data. Please answer the questions and don't be rude.
I'm sticking to the data, and the data says, I've got it here on my screen. It says this data cannot be used as a proxy for nationality.
You're confusing NINO registration at the point of someone registering for national insurance number, which is where you do end up arguably with a load of foreign-born individuals that become British citizens. But this Freedom of Information request done by the Centre for Policy Studies very clearly requests foreign nationals, individuals that haven't obtained British citizenship. So you can read whatever you like off the screen, but the fact of the matter is, Jonathan, it's wrong.
It comes from the same data, and you've got it wrong.
No, it doesn't. It's a completely new revelation. The data that we use, which is the foreign-born individuals, is those individuals that were foreign-born at the point of their registering for national insurance number.
It's very regrettable that Robert hasn't done his homework before coming to this program and doesn't know the data. But anyway, that's my point. And let me point out another thing where we clearly can see you, Martin, unfortunately, are still guilty of disseminating fake news. You still have up on your Twitter feed, 1 in 12 in London is an illegal immigrant, quoting a Daily Telegraph story. Now, that story was retracted. It was corrected by the Daily Telegraph because they counted, again, hundreds of thousands of people who were legally in the country as illegal immigrants. The Telegraph published a retraction. The Times published a retraction.
Jonathan, are you going to answer the question about this story? Just like go through every single thing you decide is factually incorrect and come on national television? You've already called one of my guests a clown. Now you're going off about something on Twitter. Answer the question about today's data.
Well, I just think if we're going to have a serious conversation that...
You're not having a serious conversation. You come on national television and call one of my guests a clown. That is not the basis of a serious and respectable conversation.
If you have a serious conversation, then perhaps you should correct your errors when they are publicly retracted by the newspapers that printed them, but rather than continuing to have them on your Twitter feed. Of course,
Jonathan Porter, you haven't answered any of the questions put to you today. You've come on, you've insulted my guests, you've been trawling through Twitter looking for inaccuracies. Are you going to talk about the figures today or not? I want to ask you a simple question, Jonathan Porter, and answer it without being rude. Do you think it's acceptable that £7.5 billion of British taxpayers' money is being given to people in benefits who are born overseas when that's 5 times the amount taken off British pensioners? People have a problem with that. Do you agree?
I agree that, as we have seen from the data published by the Office of Budget Responsibility and others, that overall people who come here, people who come here to work typically, make a significantly greater contribution in tax than they take in benefits and public spending. That means that, other things being equal, if we had lower rates of immigration, we'd have to have higher taxes or worse public services, less money spent on public services. That is well known. It's not particularly controversial. On average, the people who are coming here are likely to be net contributors to the Treasury, not net recipients. Of course, some of them claim benefits, more of them pay taxes. The net benefit to us is quite significant.
Okay,
now,
well, there is a whole raft of information to show that that's not the case across Denmark, across Holland, across Germany.
Yes,
and in fact, Jonathan Portet, when you look at tax recipients by benefits, you are right to say that there are a small number of very high net worth immigrants, tend to be from America, Australasia, South Africa and other Western European nations, as opposed to those at the other end of the spectrum, the likes of Afghanistan, Syria and Iraq. So you can't compare all immigrants together. It's simply not credible data. Look, Jonathan Porter, we have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for joining us on today's